Okay, listen, here we go.
Welcome back to Kadirarecaps. Today I will make sense of an Australian thriller called 100 Ridiculous Sections of Land, delivered in the year 2012. Like the video and buy in. The film rotates around two siblings, Reg and Lindsay Morgan, who run a blood, also bone natural compost business. They use ground bodies of creatures and people as a mysterious element for their manure. It makes them cutthroat in the market and gives them great benefits. While making a conveyance to a client named Charlie Wick, Reg goes over a side of the road van crash and tracks down the driver, dead inside. Since Reg's sibling Lindsay never values him for his work and considers him futile, Reg considers this an open door to dazzle his bossy, egotistical sibling and make enhancements in the composts. Exploiting the unfilled street, Reg hauls the body from the van to his truck. While locking the entryway, it hammers the dead body's fingers and they split off. Overreacted, Reg quickly tosses the fingers back inside the truck and locks the entryway. Next we see a young lady, Sophie, and her companion Wes making out while they bring a jug of water. Returning to the street, they see a grave of 6 individuals who passed on in a mishap a couple of years back. However, their bodies were never found, as Wes ridicules the dead by saying they probably been kidnapped by outsiders. An old woman with a canine shows up from behind and gazes at them. Seeing her, Sophie promptly apologizes and they leave. Later, Sophie and Wes arrive at the street where Sophie's sweetheart James is patching their vehicle. Turns out that James is wanting to propose to Sophie, as he is ignorant that she's undermining him. With Wes, since they can't fix the vehicle, they choose to stroll to the music celebration. They see the old woman returning back from the grave and ask her for a lift, yet she doesn't stop. After a touch of holding up, the threesome experiences Reg, who likewise is passing by a similar street. Invigorated, they ask him for a lift to the live performance. At first, Reg denies, asserting that he is getting behind schedule for work anyway. When he sees Sudsy, he quickly gets stricken by her and chooses to help them. While Sophie sits close to Reg in the lodge, the young men sit at the rear of the truck. Before the young men enter the truck, Reg figures out how to conceal the dead body under the sacks and make sense of that. The foul smell is coming from dead kangaroos. Reg and Sophie bond well during the ride as they discuss each other, pay attention to the tunes on the radio. Furthermore, chime in, Reg tells her that he is sitting tight for his undertaking's new promotion on the radio. Thusly, Sophie admits that she is going behind James' back with Wes. In the interim, James shows Wes' ring and uncovers that he will propose to Sophie at the live performance. Before long, Wes springs up a medication and takes it, asserting that it gives him harmony. As the two are examining, they abruptly see the dead body when a hand jumps out from the heap of sacks. Frightened, they quickly shout to pull over the van. Detecting the risk, Reg takes off, however doesn't open the entryway, rather he gets that's what back inside the lodge. Imagining everything seems good, he guarantees Sophie that all is well and that the young men were simply having a great time inside. After this, he asked Sophie to visit his plant first before they can go to the live event, to which she concurs. In the following scene, we see Lindsay talking on the telephone to Charlie Wick about the conveyance of compost, since Reg has still not got it done. Charlie is distraught at Lindsay. In the interim, Reg and the others show up at the plant. When they come to the young men, uncover about the dead body and yell to let them out of the truck. Sophie faculties something's wrong and moves towards the truck to help the young men, yet Reg hauls her inside the stable and secures her. In the interim, Lindsay shows up at the scene, also asks Reg what's happening, as they are Talking, the young men continue to shout from inside the truck due to this. Ridge and Lindsay keep Wes and James alongside Sophie inside the stable. Sophie and James argue to let them go, yet the Morgan siblings overlook them totally later. Sophie attempts to start up a discussion with Ridge, referencing that her sibling shouldn't menace him like that. All at once, Lindsay calls Ridge outside the stable and goes after him. He is frantic at Ridge for causing them problems, as the folks have previously seen the dead body. Lindsay says it's a gamble to let them go. Ridge attempts to make sense of about the dead body's utilization for another equation of manure and recommends they let the others go. However, Lindsay will not take the gamble. Soon the two of them convey the driver's dead body inside the stable and secure him. Potential gain over the processor too. Everybody's unexpected. The driver is alive. What's more, wakes up anyway. Lindsay, being a horrible irate mental case, crushes the driver alive. Ridge attempts to stop him, yet falls flat at the point when Lindsay blends the crushed combination of blood and bones of the driver's body to the compost. It ends up being incredibly successful. He then understands that crushing individuals alive will increment the trepidation in them, so they end up with a potassium-rich manure. Subsequently, he plans to do likewise with the triplet. Lindsay needs to begin with Sophie, yet Ridge demands attempting with James, all things being equal. Before long, they unfasten James from the shaft and hang him topsy-turvy. While hanging James, a case tumbles from his pocket into the pool of blood. Ridge gets it and finds out it's a ring, which he keeps. While Ridge and Lindsay are caught up with hanging James, Wes cuts the rope with the blade, loosens himself, and departures from the plant with Ridge's truck. Anyway, Lindsay follows him in his vehicle. Wes, satisfied to a close by confined Pixie Story Town, and stows away from Lindsay. There he is, some way or another, ready to thump Lindsay out. Following this, he rushes to the vehicle, however, tragically doesn't find the keys. Since he's high on drugs, he begins daydreaming. Wes begins running to a great extent and in a condition of frenzy. He again finds Lindsay. This time the Goliath represses him, and Wes is locked inside the vehicle trunk. Back at the outbuilding, while Lindsay is no more. After Wes, Sophie attempts to entice Ridge in, request to get her and James out of the plant, since Ridge was drawn to Sophie. From the very outset, he falls into her trap, yet when Sophie requests that he unfasten her, he understands that she's involving him for her benefit. He __ disgraces her for double-crossing her beau with Wes previously leaving the horse shelter. Hearing this, James becomes irritated at Sophie and attempts to talk, yet falls flat with the tape in his mouth. He continues to gaze at her, and the last option at last makes sense of that she could do without being with him any longer. He's bossy, and she doesn't feel such as herself around him. In the meantime, Sophie sees a telephone lying on the floor. She attempts to get the telephone with her leg, yet as she moves, the chain attached to James' leg relaxes, and he draws nearer to the processor. In the following scene, as Lindsay heads to the plant with Wes, he is come by a cop on the street. The official suspects something's off base. When Wes sobs for help from inside the trunk, he promptly arranges Lindsay to open the storage compartment, and when the stepping stool obliges, he sees Wes inside there. Anyway, before the official can take any activity, Lindsay shoots him dead. He then dumps his body in the storage compartment alongside Wes and gets back to the plant. Somewhere else, we see Ridge in his room, understanding his affections for Sophie and remembering to prevent Lindsay from killing the gathering. He returns to the stable and saves James from getting into the processor on Sophie's solicitation anyway, as before long, as he eliminates James' tape, the stepping stool begins pestering at Sophie for double-crossing him. He shames her and undermines. He will continue on some other time. When Lindsay shows up, he takes note that his monster pumpkins that he had developed for a rivalry have been annihilated.